Hello everyone! In this video we will talk about an accelerated out-of-court enforcement procedure available for the crop receipts. We will cover the main steps and particularities of the procedure and outline key recommendations based on the practical market experience. Crop receipts are regulated by the corresponding law adopted in Ukraine in 2012. According to the law, crop receipt is an unconditional obligation of the farmer to pay or deliver commodity, secured by the collateral of future crop grown on the specific land plots. Any farmer who has a properly registered right to use the land for agricultural production can issue a crop receipt. On the other side, anyone who is willing to finance a farmer can be a creditor. In the slide, you can see the main features of the crop receipts instrument. Crop receipts have a flexible format. Also, they are printed on a special state notarial blanks, notarized and registered in the crop receipts electronic register. Creditors can transfer, endorse crop receipts. These features are explained in detail in our video on crop receipts basics. If you haven't seen it, please consider doing so before proceeding with the current video. Quick out-of-court enforcement procedure is also among the key features of the crop receipts. The procedure ensures creditors' rights protection by enabling creditors to seize collateral under a crop receipt in case of the farmer's default. Enforcement is transparent, quick, and proven on practice. The farmer provides future crop as collateral within a crop receipt. It is clearly defined in the text of the crop receipt in terms of the type of the crop, its quantity and quality, and linked to the land where the crop is or will be grown. Land plots are specified by location and cadastre numbers. Also, when registering a crop receipt, a notary must check the right of the farmer to use the land for agricultural production. The collateral within a crop receipt is defined throughout the agricultural cycle. Thus, before harvest, the future crop from the specific land plots is pledged. After harvest, the collateral is the corresponding amount of the crop in the warehouse or silo. In case of enforcement, the bailiff does not need to prove the crop origin, but can seize a certain quantity of the farmer's crop within the requirements in the crop receipt. The creditor has a right to monitor collateral within the crop receipt. This can help to ensure successful enforcement in case of the farmer's default. Crop receipts combine features of the most popular financing instrument in agriculture, like promissory notes, collateral agreement, and financial lease. All these also provide out-of-court enforcement. However, the procedure for crop receipt is more advanced. Thus, crop receipts allow issuing the notarial writ already on the next day after the due date if the obligations are not fulfilled. Unlike the collateral agreement, the creditor does not have to confirm fulfillment of his obligations. Unlike all the other mentioned instruments, the farmer has no right to appeal the liability. As a result of the enforcement, the creditor within crop receipt will receive either the pledged crop within commodity crop receipt or money from the sale of the pledged crop within financial crop receipt. As of today, crop receipts provide the fastest and the most transparent procedure for the protection of creditors' right in agribusiness. If the farmer hasn't fulfilled his obligation within the crop receipt, the creditor can initiate an out-of-court enforcement procedure. It is possible within 1 year, starting from the next day after the crop receipt due date. Let's take a closer look at the enforcement procedure step by step. Step 1. The creditor sends the farmer a written request to repay the crop receipt by registered mail with a description of the enclosure. Don't forget to keep the postal receipt and a copy of the request. No need to wait for the answer. On the same day, the creditor can address any notary registered in the crop receipts register to issue a notarial writ. The creditor provides the following documents: original crop receipt with no inscription made that it has been fulfilled. If the crop receipt has been partially settled, this shall be stated on the crop receipt. In this case, the notarial writ will be issued for the remaining amount due. Copy of the creditor's written request to fulfill the obligation under the crop receipt. Postal receipt with the description of the enclosure as the proof of sending the request to the farmer. Application form and documents to confirm a person's identity and authority on behalf of the creditor. Passport, individual tax code, power of attorney. Step 2. Notary issues a notarial writ on the crop receipt. Step 3. The notary writ is valid for 1 year, and during this period, the creditor can address a private or state bailiff to start the enforcement proceeding. To initiate enforcement proceeding, the creditor provides the following document to the bailiff: crop receipt with the notarial writ, application form of the creditor, where the creditor provides all the available information on the debtor, collateral, or any other details which can facilitate enforcement. Documents to confirm person's identity and authority: passport, individual tax code, power of attorney. It is also recommended to pay the advance fee for the enforcement procedure and provide a receipt to the bailiff. Enforcement proceeding is initiated in the area, region of the debtor or his property. Creditors can choose the state or private enforcement system to initiate the proceeding. Bailiff's jurisdiction depends on the location of the debtor or his property and the total value of the crop receipt. If the creditor addresses the state bailiff and the obligation is below $800,000, the case will be under the jurisdiction of the local departments of the State Enforcement Office. If the obligation is between $800,000 and $1.6 million, the case will be under the jurisdiction of regional departments. If the obligation is more than $1.6 million, the case will be under the jurisdiction of the Enforcement Department of the Ministry of Justice. The enforcement proceedings and actions will be performed within region, town, location, but if needed, the case will be transferred between the bodies of the State Enforcement Office. If the creditor decides to work with the private bailiff, he can address any private bailiff registered in the region where farmer operates. Private officers are authorized to launch enforcement cases only within their regions, but further enforcement actions are possible throughout Ukraine. Please note that during the first year of work, a private bailiff can only enforce cases with the obligation under $1.6 million. This restriction removes starting from the second year of work. Couple of words about the timeline of the enforcement procedure. As defined in the legislation, the creditor can get a notarial writ anytime within 1 year starting the next day after the crop receipt due date. This allows to have enough time to negotiate with the farmer and agree on the alternatives to settle the obligation within the crop receipt. With the notarial writ issued on the crop receipt, the creditor has 1 more year to initiate the out-of-court enforcement proceeding. For some farmers, the very act of a notarial writ is an incentive for settlement. However, if the crop receipt was enforced but the obligation was not fully settled, the creditor can resubmit the notarial writ to the bailiff within a year starting from the date of the notarial writ. So, assume the creditor got a notarial writ and initiated enforcement. What happens next? Step 4 depends on the type of the crop receipt which is under enforcement. Under the commodity crop receipt, the bailiff searches for the crop pledged and returned it to the creditor within 7 days. Under the financial crop receipt, After collateral is seized, the bailiff sells it and returns money to the creditor. Public auction sale of the pledged crop may take up to 45 days. A couple of other important points on the difference of the enforcement for different types of crop receipts. Farmers' obligation under the commodity crop receipt is to deliver commodities. Therefore, when enforcing commodity crop receipt, the bailiff will seize crops pledged and assign property rights on these crops to the creditor. The crop tonnage may be changed depending on the quality, if this option is specifically mentioned in the crop receipt. Under the financial crop receipt, farmer is obliged to pay. So, within financial crop receipt enforcement, the bailiff seizes the collateral, sells the crop and returns revenues to the creditor equal to the crop receipt value. Notary writs on the financial crop receipts also allow to enforce penalties. According to the law on crop receipts, if the farmer harvests not enough crops to fulfill the obligation within a crop receipt, the collateral remains for the next season until the crop receipt is fully settled. This is valid for both farmers' fulfillment of the obligations and within enforcement procedure. In this case, any other future crop grown on the specific land plots is considered as a collateral instead. For example, if within commodity crop receipt the collateral is seized partially, the remaining part of the obligation can be seized in the next season, but on condition that the farmer grows the same crop either on the specified or other land plots. If the farmer does not grow the crop in the next season, the seizure is postponed till the next season. At the same time, the creditor can always go to court. For the financial crop receipt, in case of partial seizure of the collateral, the remaining part will be seized in the next season, regardless of what crops the farmer plants. The creditor can always go to court as well. Step 5. When creditor gets full repayment, the bailiff returns the settled crop receipt to the notary who issued the notarial writ. The notary closes the crop receipt in the register and returns it to the creditor. In his turn, the creditor should return the crop receipt to the farmer. First practical cases of the crop receipts enforcement appeared in the market on the fourth year of the instrument implementation. As of October 2019, around 20 notarial writs were issued in different regions of Ukraine. The creditors addressed both state and private bailiffs to initiate enforcement proceeding. There are 8 cases of successful arrest of the collateral, including grain in the warehouse and future harvest in the field. Some creditors decided to go to court instead, despite having the notarial writ. Successful out-of-court enforcement practice and court judgments in favor of the creditors have facilitated the uptake of crop receipts instrument in the Ukrainian market. Based on the market practice, the project defined the recommendations for the creditors to ensure successful enforcement under a crop receipt. Number 1. Carefully evaluate the creditworthiness and reliability of the farmer. Number 2. Follow the requirements to crop receipt text and its alignment with other agreements. Number 3. Monitor the collateral. Number 4. Ensure you can get an accurate notarial writ on time. Number 5. Cooperate with the bailiff in search of the collateral during enforcement proceeding. Another important point for the creditors is an enforcement action plan. It is recommended to plan and define your actions at the very beginning of your work with the crop receipts instrument. The plan should cover the following. What is the distribution of responsibilities in your company regarding crop receipts? Who decides to start the enforcement? Which bailiff or legal company to address? How much are you ready to pay and how? Agree beforehand with a notary on the terms and form of a notarial writ. Also, agree with the bailiff as well. Provide maximum information to the bailiff. Analyze costs and benefits during the whole process. Define the satisfying level of settlement for your company. Be pragmatic, determined, and assess your risks and dynamics. Thank you for watching this video. Please visit the Crop Receipts Register website at agroregisters.com.ua to get more information on crop receipts. Also, keep in touch and follow us on Facebook via @agroregisters.